What is up, Buckeye Nation? Floco here with Scarlet and Great, Ohio State football with Scarlet and Great right here on YouTube. We appreciate you tuning in. As always, we're here to talk about the Ohio State spring game that happened today. Um, I'm going to preface this up front. When I talk about the roster as it stands right now, I understand that the portal is going to be active. We'll see what happens for the next couple of weeks, but I'm talking about the roster as it stands right now as to uh, forecasting it for the next season. Now, it might not be the same in a couple weeks. I may just be completely wrong after today, but we'll see. But I still want to talk about what we saw on the field today at a few certain positions, and let's talk about it. First, to start off with 80,000 at the spring game. Buckeye Nation, man, you know how to show out, and the coaches do love that. The coaches love the fact they can get these young guys in front of a ton of fans and get them to play in that experience, especially the young freshmen, to get to play in that kind of environment and that experience. And then they know it's broadcasted on Fox. They know it's broadcast. Or they know there's 80,000 people watching. You know, people are going to watch it on YouTube later or wherever they can get it, or whether they record it or not. And that's big that you guys still show out for a big time game like that, especially after the way the last season ended. I will say that the off season, and it's as exciting as it was, probably plays a part in that because I know how talented this team can be, and they wanted to see a lot of the young, hyped up freshmen play, and some of them didn't disappoint. I'll say that much. I actually got to also want to shout out to the Fox Sports presentation. I thought it was great. You know, I got to be honest with you. I've said it before. I think the spring game has been kind of boring in recent years. The game itself. I went to the one in 2019, the first year Justin Fields was there, and other than hanging out with friends and family, the game itself was kind of lackluster and boring. Don't get me wrong, I get it because the coaches are not going to put players in a position where they could get hurt. They're not going to show too much. Obviously, they're kind of there. It's like a preseason scrimmage. They just want to see some of the young guys play. It's not their job to entertain the fan base. I get it. There's a couple things I do miss from old school spring games. I liked when Urban Meyer was a coach and he'd get the kicker and line him up, and he'd stand right next to the kicker to create pressure, and he'd back him up, back him up, back him up. We're not really doing that anymore. A couple field goals kicked today. I think two were made, one was missed. I'm still a little shaky on field goal kicking, but is what it is. Nothing I can do about it. It's really windy on the game too. Also, I'm getting this out late because I was the full day of work, and then had to come home and watch the game, and then take down some notes and decide to record this. But I thought Fox Sports presentation was really good. Made it more fun. The interviews on the field with Ryan Day were fun. I thought with Joel Klatt, I thought the interviews with the players were fun. And also Urban Meyer, by the way, is the king. He is so good in the booth. I could listen to him talk football all day long. He's that good. He's that interesting. And he's really obviously still very passionate about the game. Plus, it's just nice to see him in the shoe again. Urban Meyer, one of the greatest Buckeyes ever, indisputable. He and Tressel and Woody are the top of the echelon for the coaches in Ohio State, and he's a legend. And I love seeing him in the shoe. Loved seeing him with Gene Smith, and they have that special relationship. But yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I thought Fox Sports deserves a lot of credit for the presentation. I actually really enjoyed that because, again, the game itself, what are you really getting out of it? And I also want to preface everything I'm about to say about the game itself. Like, look, it's just one practice, it's one scrimmage. It's not defining, but I'm just talking about what I feel like I saw during the game. But obviously, we're going to start off with the quarterbacks. Um, let's overreact, shall we? Let's go ahead and just name Julian Sayin or Air Noland to start. No, I'm kidding. Look, we didn't get to see a lot of Will Howard and Devin Brown, and that's where the real battle is for a starter. I mean, let's be real. I mean, they could say Julian Sands in the mix or whatever. No, come on. I'll get to them in a second. But Will Howard, I thought, I give the slight edge to Devin Brown today. Neither one of them did anything too special, but Devin had the really nice touchdown pass. I also want to address the elephant in the room with this. It's so crazy when you go on Twitter or you listen to certain podcasts and things like that, and you see some things that you just don't make logical sense. I mean, there's a contingent of the fan base that firmly believes Devin Brown is completely outplaying Will Howard in every single practice and whatnot, and that Ryan Day is only using politics to not start him. And it boggles the mind. Like, winning isn't the first thing on Ryan Day's mind, right? So this is going to be some cold hard truth about the quarterback situation. I'm not going to pretend I'm at the practices and I know who's playing better and who isn't, because I'll tell you one thing: You even Birmingham said it. You could have a million writers at these things and come up with a million different opinions as to who's playing well, who's not playing well. But I will say this is indisputable fact. Ryan Day and the boosters do not care about the money they've given Will Howard to come to Ohio State more than they care about winning football games. That is an indisputable fact. Now, what do you think those boosters that came up with the money? Because there's people out there who would accuse Ryan Day of starting Will Howard over Devin Brown because they have it in their heads that Devin Brown is this Superman quarterback. Based on what? I don't know, but they have it in their minds. What do you think the boosters who came up with the money to pay Will Howard to come to Ohio State care more about? The fact that they want him to start because they paid him all that money, or that they want to win football games? Ryan Day is going to make the decision he feels is best for the starting position, and then who's going to help win football games more than the other. Same with Chip Kelly, who's going to have a huge voice in that room as to who should be the starter. So it's just ridiculous. Well, they paid him, so he's going to start. It's if Will Howard's named the starter in the fall, I don't think they know who the starter is quite yet. But if he's named the starter in the fall, the Devin Brown stands are going to come out of the woodworks and it's because they paid him. To me doesn't make logical sense. I understand you say follow the money. They paid him, so he's got to start. No, they need to win football games, and they know it. They need to beat the team up north and win the Big Ten and go into a good standing with the playoff this year and go deep into the playoff this year in the first year. They know that. And whoever's going to do that, they don't care how much money they paid Will Howard. They could have paid $5 million. It wouldn't matter. They want to win. Otherwise, they wouldn't be giving this kind of money to the program in the first place, obviously. So winning is the most important thing, that no matter what. And winning brings in the most money to the program. So that $1 million for these guys who are, 9-10 figure millionaires, whatever, billionaires and whatnot, that is so meager. They don't care. They just care about winning football games. So if Will Howard starts, it's going to be because Ryan Day feels he's the best to start. And on top of that, this is another piece of hard, cold truth that you're not going to like. Some of you may not. Comment what you think below. Is that whether you like it or not, I don't know who for sure is the most talented of the two because I'm not at the practices. I think they're both kind of similar in their skill sets. Whether you like it or not, though, Will Howard is the most game-proven quarterback, game-tested quarterback in the entire locker room. You may not like hearing that, but it's true. You do not know. You cannot tell me definitively. You cannot write me. Comment if you think you can, but you can't talk to me and tell me definitively that Devin Brown is a proven winner. You can't do it. I like Devin Brown. I think he's got talent. If he's the starter, he has my full support. And I will have known if he is the starter that he actually beat Will Howard in practice and gave Ryan Day the confidence to say this is our guy going forward. But whether you like it or not, they brought Will Howard in not to be the starter necessarily, but because Devin Brown is injury prone. You may not like hearing that, but he has been, and he is unproven. And you do not go into a season with this kind of roster with a guy who has yet to prove himself. Now you say, Will Howard hasn't either. Will Howard has a conference championship as a starter. He says he's only 15-12, but he's also won games at Kansas State with far less talent. I mean, wildly far less talent than he'll ever see at Ohio State. So I'm just saying, and you can't judge it off one spring game. I thought Devin played a little better. I could be wrong on that, but I thought he played a little better. I thought Howard had some flashes too, and the offense moved with Howard. So they brought Howard in as insurance. So they have at least an experienced starter. They have a talented guy in Brown. It's the battles between those two, and I've spent 5 minutes just on those two because I have to address a couple things that really drive me insane when I talk about it with the fan base. But again, comment below and who do you think the starter will be, and tell me why. As far as the young guys go, we'll go to Lincoln first. Lincoln had a bad game, and look, I don't know if it's just miscommunication with the receivers or whatnot. Some of those interceptions he threw were kind of like, okay, was it just a bad throw? Was it him and the receiver not communicating? I think they were giving him so much run so he could put something on film because he's going to transfer. I could be wrong. I don't like speculating like that. I'm not hearing things. This isn't a rumor from inside. It's just something I think. And again, I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. It's part of the human nature and part of being a fan. But um, I definitely, when you see Julian Sayin and Air Noland play, I just don't see how Lincoln beats them out next year. I mean, he's a competitor. I'll give him that, and he's got a skill set that actually works for Chip Kelly's offense because he's fast. He's got a solid arm. You watch Julian Sayin and Aaron Nolan play, and they really showed flashes as young guys. I mean, Julian Sayin, for one, has really quick release. He threw a bad interception to McLean, who looked pretty good in this game, but really bad interception. But other than that, he has a quick release. He gets the ball out quick. He seems to hit that sideline pretty well. He and Nolan both need to add serious muscle to them, and they will. That's why when people say they're in the mix to be a starter this year, I say that's ridiculous. But they're not physically there to be starters. But I got to be honest, after what I've seen from Lincoln and against Missouri, now don't get me wrong, it wasn't all his fault because the offensive line was horrendous against Missouri. But now in the spring game, the only times I've ever seen him play, now the coaching staff bragged on Lincoln all last year allegedly, but uh, from what I've seen in kind of like game situations with him, I almost would trust Sayin or Nolan better than I would Lincoln at this point. But clearly, Howard and Brown are the top two guys, and I think by a mile. And but Sayin and Nolan both look like they could battle for the future, and they both look like they could really play. Um, Nolan had a couple of nice plays too. Also, a nice surprise for me. He has some wheels to him, and you saw a lot of zone read from the quarterbacks, which I think you're going to see a lot more of this year with Chip Kelly. So that was a little bit interesting. But anyway, to recap, the money they gave Howard is maybe a small, tiny part about why he might start, but it has no bearing on the final result, or doesn't have nearly as much bearing on the final result as what I think people think. And they're going to make up excuses in their mind as to why Will Howard is starting. They're going to go right to that money, and I'm like, no, the money is more insurance because we needed a quarterback going into the end of this year for sure. With Devin Brown being unimproved. Now, if Devin Brown had gone out and against Missouri, didn't get hurt, and he just completely killed it and looked great, they probably wouldn't even have brought Will Howard in. So that's a hypothetical, but take it for what it's worth. Let's go on to another position in running backs. Does OSU need a third? I saw a lot of people tweeting out that they don't really need a third running back. I don't 100% know if I agree with that. I think Sam Williams-Dixon showed some flashes, looks pretty good. I think I'll start with the top two. Henderson and Judkins are just awesome. That two-headed monster is going to be a nightmare for any defense they play. Even with the offensive line kind of being up and down today. And don't get me wrong, I mean, some people were going off on them. I think they were better than what people. They were not great by any means, but they were better than what people were giving them credit. I think but there's still there's a long way to go, and it'll be interesting to see what Chip Kelly does with the offensive line there. But because Chip Kelly and Justin Fry worked together at UCLA, and they had a pretty good offensive line, pretty good run, a really good running game. But I like to see what Chip Kelly's doing with the run game, and I like to see the fact that you see our guys are more prone to running downhill as fast as they can now. Judkins is extremely quick, just extremely quick and tough. And Henderson, I thought a couple of plays he showed flashes and like from in the past when he would run into the back of a lineman or whatever. But honestly, he had a play that should have been a touchdown. He got to show. He's like, no, I'm still that dude. So he and Judkins are just they're gonna be a nightmare for defenses, and I can't wait, especially in Chip Kelly's offensive system. And at times, I thought the line got to the second level pretty well. I saw Fryer in the second level a couple times, and I think the line will be okay. And I think it'll be good this year, not spectacular, but it's still got a long time to improve. And I just think I've never witnessed a spring game where our offensive line just looked lights out, unbelievable in any era, and whether it was Tressel or Urban or or Ryan Day. But so I'm not real concerned there, but we'll see what happens going forward. I think I said this with the preview with Lisa that you really can't gauge the offensive line too much by the spring game. But the running backs, as far as Sam Williams-Dixon, like I said, showed flashes and looked pretty good. Even in between the tackles, he kind of reminds me of a scat back who's a third down type guy. And Dallin Hayden would have been so nice to keep because I just don't know. You're getting into that. We're going to be getting into that 13, 14, 15, whatever games of the season. It's just, yeah, it's nice to have Judkins and Henderson be so freaking good. But like, look, Henderson's a little injury prone. I hate to say it, but he is. He stayed healthy at the end of last year, thank God. And I don't wish anything on him, obviously, but he's been banged. He's gotten banged up in the past. And then you have Judkins, who 500 and something, 70 something carries over the last 2 years. He's had a lot of play, a lot of wear and tear. You just don't know. It just takes one time. Do you want to go get a veteran that can kind of fill in? And he's never going to be a Judkins or Henderson, but he's a nice player, especially in pass pro, and somebody's dependable on third down and things like that. Or do you just roll the dice with Caffey and the freshman? I don't know. I don't think you can judge it off a spring game. It'll be very telling to see what Ohio State does in the portal here if they decide to go after somebody. But I don't know that I don't know that I'm too comfortable with what they have behind Henderson and Judkins right now. Not that those guys can't be good in the future. I just don't know if I want to go into a long season where you're expected to compete for a national title with what they have. Man, maybe they have no choice, or they can't get anybody in the portal. They just got to. And Lachlan, his first step is to really coach these guys up. So, or his first gig as running back coach. But going on to the position, I think everybody was anticipating. I actually thought J.J. Smith would shine a little bit more, but the wide receivers didn't shine really for a big reason. I thought the secondary was so good. We're going to get to the secondary in a second, really, but I think that was a big reason they didn't shine. The secondary is really good. Now, don't get me wrong. The secondary sees this wide receiver core every day in practice. They know the offense in and out, what we do. When you're playing against each other, you never know for sure how good somebody is. Because you're just getting used to it. So it'd be like us playing Penn State every single week. You get kind of familiar. So I don't know how to gauge it on the fact that it's just, do they know the route tree really that well or whatever. But talking about the wide receivers, I think Tate's in for a big year. It's too bad Ennis is hurt. Couldn't quite really see Ennis too much. Emeka, obviously, he's going to be a stud this year. I mean, the one-handed catch with getting both feet in was ridiculous. I thought, and I'll say that I think that Jeremiah Smith, while he didn't have a monster play, it looked like Howard underthrew him in the end zone in the corner, and Matthews made a nice play on the ball. But there was one play where J.J. Smith, he as a sideline pattern on a deep pass, he dropped the ball. He had it in his hands and he dropped it. And I think that the Joel Klatt and company were kind of saying how they were surprised, or maybe it was Brady Quinn, said he was kind of surprised he dropped it. Yeah, I mean, you've come to, after all the highlight reel catches he's made in practice, you kind of come to expect him to catch that. But what impressed me about that play, it was a bit of a stall back shoulder type throw, and he had to come back for it and adjust to it. And man, he adjusted brilliantly to it. If he had held on to it, it would have been an amazing catch. And I think in the season he will hold on to those. But it's one play, he didn't catch it. Okay, fine. But the way he adjusted to it and gave it a chance was an incredible play by JJ. And it just shows that he's just got a brilliant future ahead of him. And I think plays like that show that he is as advertised. He seems to track the ball extremely well, and he can adjust to it. Even the ball that was pretty badly underthrown by Howard in the corner of the end zone for him. He knew where to adjust to the ball. The corner made a good play on it, but he knew where to adjust to the ball and come back and try to get it. I thought that was really, really nice by J.J. Smith. And I even though it didn't end in a completion, it just shows that he's just that ahead of the game where he knows how to go get it. Now, better ball, he probably scores a touchdown. I will say there was one pass by Howard that to Emeka. It probably would have been a touchdown in a regular situation, but it should have been a flag because, I mean, I like Hancock. He's a great player, but he was clearly holding Emeka, and Emeka couldn't adjust to the ball. So I thought that might have been a different outcome had it not been holding or been called or whatever. I don't know if they're really calling penalties in this game anyway. Who cares? But it's just a practice. But for people who are kind of tearing Howard down for his passes in the red zone, yeah, some of them weren't great, but I thought that one was kind of like, defense got away with one there. But either way, I'd say the wide receivers didn't really have a lot of huge plays. Other than Mecca's one-handed catch, which was ridiculous. But they didn't shine too much. But again, I think part of the reason is the secondary. Again, they play against them every day. They probably are pretty familiar with this wide receiver core. Let's talk about the defense a little bit. I think this defense is going to be scary good this year. Not from the spring game. I just think they have all the talent in the world. It's Noel's third season. You got to give Tim Walton a lot of credit. Now, granted, like I just prefaced and said that they play the same wide receiver core in the offense every day, but Tim Walton has proven himself in season as well when they call him the OG for a reason. He's a dog. He was such an amazing hire. He's the Brian Hart line of the defense. Such an amazing hire. Great recruiter. He's completely rebuilt that room. The corner room was just a barren wasteland 3 years ago. And I remember when in 2019, when Okuda Wade and Wade came back and played the outside, didn't play it very well. I don't know how much of that was him and how much was a Kerry Combs defense, but um, it was Akuda Wade and Damon Arnett, and just a shutdown secondary, and we hadn't really had that since then. Again, part of that was Kerry Combs, defensive coordinator, and then Jim Knowles was kind of tasked with fixing it on the fly in 2021, and it's gotten better and better and better. I feel like I'm sorry, not 21, 2022, and Tim Walton has done an amazing job fixing it. And the amount of talent there, Igbenogsen's a nice player, really nice physical player. That's the thing about secondaries; they're tough and they're physical. Denzel Burke, we know who he is. Hort Hancock's really developed into a really great nickel corner. You got guys that coming up like Calvin Simpson-Hunt, who had a really nice interception against Lincoln, and then you had, of course, Jermaine Matthews, who's really good. And you see these young guys starting to play well. I mean, I thought Aaron Scott had really nice coverage at times, and he's hasn't lost his black stripe yet. It's kind of interesting, but I mean, there's the corner room is so much better than it has been in years, and I really feel like we're going to have a 2019 type shutdown year as far as pass coverage is concerned. Linebackers weren't really able to flash in this game, but we have a lot of talent there. I'm not real worried about it. Um, but it's not really the format for them to flash anyway. But I'm going from the secondary to D line. D line had a good game. You could argue again the offensive line wasn't up to snuff, but the D line is so ridiculously deep, and it kind of hadn't occurred to me till today because you forget about certain players that really shine today. I thought Mitchell Melton is a nice player as a defensive end. He's really shined today. I think he's going to be heavily in the rotation as he should be. You know what Sawyer and Tui Malau are, and Kenyatta Jackson's an up and comer, really nice player. You got and then you got Caden Curry on the outside as well. You got a really great rotation at defensive end. It's really kind of unbelievable. There's that much talent there in today's age of football. And then, of course, on the inside, you have Tyleik Williams, Ty Hamilton, who are obviously really good, and they're the obvious starters. But then you got guys like Hero Canoe, Caden McDonald, you got Taiwan Malone. You got really good, solid talent there in the middle. And I just think the defense line's got such nice depth that's going to take it into this November, December games. And because as long as Larry knows, Larry's going to rotate them, obviously. Defense is going to be scary good this year. I really feel like I really feel like they're going to be physical and good. They're going to be one of the top 5 defenses in the country, as they were last year, really. And it's just going to be interesting to see Jim Knowles in year 3, how much better they can get. I'm also curious to see what Laurinaitis can do with the linebackers going into this season. But the secondary, especially, is going to be so hard to throw on, especially when you got Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs was sneaky kind of good today, especially against those screens and things like that, where he was able to wrap. And I noticed that when they were able to tackle, they wrapped up nicely. Overall, I know there's a couple little things here and there, but I don't know. I'm very impressed, and we got some young guys in the secondary. I think Bonsu and McLean are obviously up next at safety. Once Ransom's gone, Downs will be here this year and next year, obviously. Although he could probably play pro right now if he wanted to, if he's able to. So it's nice to see that room is coming alive again, the secondary, because we were known BIA for the longest time. BIA has made a comeback, and it's really nice to see going forward. So, guys, I appreciate it. Hey, if you like what you see, like the video for us, and we appreciate that a lot. It helps the algorithm. Obviously, subscribe if you like the channel. We're trying to get to 6,000 subscribers here. Appreciate you guys as always. I hope you enjoyed the spring game. Comment below what you enjoyed most about the spring game. I really want to hear from you guys. As always, guys, appreciate you. Good. I hope you enjoyed the spring game. I want to mention this because we're about to be like 4 months of nothing. And just, not even a lot of practice news. I think it's going to be a barren wasteland. So anyway, guys, as always, goodbye. God bless. And of course, go Bucks.